I'm in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, so all the way on the other side of the continent. So thank you very much for hosting me in West Africa virtually. Just very briefly, I'll just introduce our company, although the moderator has actually done a great job and has said most of the things that are on this slide already. Yeah, Green Resources is a Norwegian company founded in 1995, and we manage approximately 38,000 hectares across 3 countries. In those 3 countries, we have 5 subsidiary companies. 3 of them are plantation forestry companies, and 2 are purely established for industrial processing of forest resources. We're a Norwegian company, as I mentioned, but we are part of the let's call it the New Forest family. New Forest is one of the largest forest asset managers globally. So we have access to a fairly wide network through New Forest in Australia. In Uganda, we have our own sawmill and pole treatment plant. In Tanzania, we have a sawmill, a pole treatment plant, as well as a briquetting plant. And then in Mozambique, we run a pole treatment plant as well as a veneer mill. And we have a close partnership with a third-party sawmill. So that's Green Resources in a nutshell. So the topic of today's discussion is how to prepare the forest for mass timber. And what you will notice is that I'm actually going to talk very little about forestry, and I will be talking more about what needs to happen after you have planted the trees. I believe that there is actually significant forest resources across Africa. The question is, what are these forest resources grown for? So just as an example, in 2022, Fractal Forestry and Arup did a regional supply study in East Africa. And the supply study showed that there is, in theory, more forest and wood flow available in East Africa than there would be even under a very positive scenario of mass timber development. But what is lacking is the knowledge, what is needed in order to drive mass timber development. And also what is lacking is actually the industrial capacity to produce the products that are required. So we heard the professor talking earlier about all the things that you need to do when you want to establish a forest. But once you do that, it's going to take 15 years until your tree is mature. So, but what is actually needed? What's the market actually going to be asking you for if those products are to be used in mass timber products? What are the specifications that are needed? What are the grading rules? What are the densities? What's the moisture content? What finish is needed? Are the forests needing to be certified? All of these questions, I think, at the moment, are not clearly defined in many of the countries where we operate, and as a result, we don't really know how do we go from the trees on the left of the screen, which is our plantation in Uganda, close to where Simon is located. And how do we move to what you see on the right of the screen, which is a mass timber construction, probably somewhere in Europe. So I think what we all agree on is that this is not the way to do it. But this is what we see all around us. And I'm pretty sure if we go to Nigeria and we go into the forests in Nigeria, we'll see many, many examples of this. We definitely see many examples of this in Mozambique, in Tanzania, in Uganda, and other locations. But if it's not to be done like this, we still see it everywhere. Why is that? And And the typical problem is that African markets are very underdeveloped. There's a lack of standards. There's a lack of demand for standards by customers. Very often informality pays because it is still fairly easy to evade taxes. So you're better off setting up a small mill like what you see on the picture here than a big visible mill. So if the markets and the market demand does not change, we're not really going to see growth of investment in quality processing and forest management. So what does that mean? So what that means is that we need to start understanding the cycle of forest development. And what we need to start off with is actually understanding what are those trees that have been grown over the last decades in our part of the world, in Africa. What are the specifications and the quality characteristics of the pine and eucalyptus that is grown typically in African plantations? What are the strengths, and how can we develop building codes and specifications around those forests that are grown in our area? And I'm quite pleased to see that this seminar is organized through, from what I understand, is the university in Nigeria, because I think universities, architects, engineers, and governments have a big role to play to translate the European standards that are out there for mass timber products and turn them into workable standards that can work with African species that are grown. And when I say African species, it doesn't mean African native species. What I mean is wood that's grown in African plantations. Now, once that is done, then project developers and governments can drive demands. And it is only really once that is happening that forestry companies and industrial players like Green Resources or maybe MTT in South Africa will start investing in the right type of processing and the right type of plantation developments. Because nobody's going to grow a high quality plantation if we don't really know what are we growing it for, and is there going to be demand. And therefore, I think it's very important to actually approach this problem from the other way around and approach it from the market side. Once we get the market side to ask for the right products, the forest players will start investing into creating those products. And there is wood out there. I'm absolutely convinced there is a lot of wood out there. This is, of course, where we want to go to. So if we get this right, we should end here. And these are European factories where mass timber products are being made. Now, this is going to take some time before we are there. So we're going to do this with baby steps in between. But once the foresters and the sawmillers know what is required, then we can grow the forest and we can invest in the processing steps, meaning good quality sawmilling equipment, timber drying kilns, grading lines, planing lines, finger jointing lines, and most important, proper grading rules that are suitable for local resources and that are matched by design and building codes that can be used in the countries where we all operate. So that's, in a nutshell, my view on what needs to happen. This cycle is key, and I actually think the problem that we're facing to grow the market starts on the demand side, not on the resource side. Let's work on the market side to actually understand what is available in the country, what are the characteristics, and how can we turn that into building codes that are usable in our operating environments. So that's my message for you today. These are some images from what we do around East Africa. So thank you very much. And I look forward to your questions either now or at the end of the seminar.